Wow, can you believe Prinka's USA? Humans shouldn't always stay at home, even if you have nothing to do, because staying at home for too long makes the brain become dull and leads to overthinking. You'll have more negative emotions. Psychology calls this state mental rumination. Most of the time, people who stay at home long term are not physically lazy, but mentally exhausted. You increasingly do not want to go out or see people. Even going to the supermarket downstairs to buy a bottle of water feels troublesome. You start to get used to being in a daze alone, scrolling through your phone and staying up late. Then you repeatedly struggle with yourself in an empty room. You think you're resting, but in fact, you're quietly draining the vitality of life. Your brain needs stimulation, movement, connection. Without it, your thoughts turn inwards and spiral. The longer you isolate, the harder it becomes to break the pattern. In this video, we'll figure out, does this tweet have value? Should you incorporate this into your life, or is it straight on trash? Don't even think about it. It's bullshit. If you want more tweets with knowledge put into them so you actually learn something and not just see a bunch of bullshit, check out my other videos and subscribe if you really like the content. This tweet sounds dramatic, but it's actually uncomfortably accurate. Honestly, what makes it uncomfortable, because the more dramatic it sounds, the more you want to dismiss it. You want to say, relax, it's not that deep. Or people just like to over-psychologize normal behavior. And yeah, at first glance, it does read like one of those posts that's trying too hard to diagnose everyone. But the problem is, it's also weirdly accurate. Not I don't want to go to a psychologist. I'm okay. I don't want them to diagnose me with some shit that I don't even know about, but in a way that might make you a little bit more understanding of your situation, and you can actually grow and find the help you need. And you know it's not trying to attack you because it starts with something harmless, saying, and it's quite true though, staying in because it's easier, skipping plans because you're tired, telling yourself you'll go out tomorrow. And at first it actually feels like rest, no pressure. You don't have to use all your social energy on this. No expectations, just you, your room, your phone, and the idea that you're finally getting a break. And that's why this tweet is pretty good, because it's describing something that feels normal while it's happening, but it's scary thinking about it. Staying home doesn't immediately make you sad. It doesn't feel dangerous. It's called home for a reason, and it makes you feel very peaceful. It feels like you have control. You have predictability. You don't have to deal with awkward conversations, traffic, small talk, or some other shit that you don't want to deal with. You know, the shit that people bring to you. You get to exist without resistance. And for a while, that feels amazing. But then something activates, shifts, and it's so quiet you don't even notice it. Your brain starts feeling dull, not depressed, not anxious in a very obvious way, just foggy. Like your thoughts don't have anywhere to go, so they start looping. You replay the same worries, the same what ifs, the same self-diagnosis. You scroll not because you're entertained, but because it fills the silence. And even then, the scrolling doesn't really land. It just passes time. That's the part people don't talk about. Isolation doesn't punch you in the face. It drains you very slowly and quietly. The tweet sounds dramatic because it puts words to something that usually is invisible. The fact that even small things like going downstairs to get water starts feeling annoying, not because you're lazy, but because your mental energy is already done. It's spent. You haven't been using it outward, so it's being turned inward. And when thoughts turn inward for too long, they don't get kinder. They just start hitting you harder and harder and punch you out. TKO. You start thinking you're resting, but you never feel refreshed. You sleep later, but wake up tired. You consume content all day, but feel understimulated, and then you blame yourself for it. You think something is wrong with your discipline, your motivation, your personality. That's why this tweet feels uncomfortable, because it doesn't let you hide behind the usual explanations. It's not saying you're broken. It's saying your environment is starving your brain. Humans aren't meant to exist in low stimulus bubbles. Your brain needs movement, novelty, and interaction the same way your body needs food. When you move those things, your system doesn't shut down. It turns on itself. Overthinking isn't a personality trait. It's what happens when your mind has too much space and nothing to aim at. And the scariest part is how easy it is to normalize this state, this mind state. You get used to being in a daze. You get used to the nights blending into mornings. You get used to not seeing people, and because nothing catastrophic happens right away, you assume you're fine. But fine slowly turns into numb, and numb turns into exhausted, and exhausted turns into avoiding anything that might require effort, including the things that would actually help. That's why calling this dramatic misses the point. The drama isn't in the words or the language it's using. It's in how quietly everything starts settling in. So all in all, yeah, this tweet sounds dramatic, but that's only because most people don't want to admit how common this experience is. They'd rather call it exaggeration than look at how much time they've spent alone with their thoughts, wondering why their energy keeps dropping. This is exactly a tweet that most people should look at. Let's see the psychology of it. People hear the words like mental rumination and immediately tune out. This is boring. It sounds clinical. It sounds boring, like something that only applies to extreme cases. But mental rumination isn't rare, and it's not that dramatic. It's actually one of the most normal reactions the brain has when it doesn't have enough going on the outside of itself. At its simplest, mental rumination is what happens when your brain has no external input. That's it. No anything else, no disorders, just a mind with too much unused capacity. Your brain is built to respond to things. Movement, sound, people, problems in the real world. When those things disappear, the brain doesn't relax. It redirects. And the easiest thing for it to redirect towards is itself. Your thoughts become the environment. At first, it just feels like thinking, reflection, processing, to tell yourself you're just in your head today. But when nothing new comes for a very long time, thinking turns into looping. The same idea came back over and over and over again. The same worries, the same regrets, the same questions with no answers. That's what people mean when they say your thoughts start eating themselves. Without new input, your mind reuses old material. It doesn't generate clarity, it generates repetition. And repetition without resolution feels exhausting. Not because the thoughts are deep, but because they go nowhere. This is why isolation messes with people even when nothing is technically wrong. You don't need trauma. You don't need a crisis. You just need too much sameness. Your brain needs friction to stay healthy. Not stress, friction. Resistance that comes from interacting with the world, walking somewhere unfamiliar, hearing another person's voice, having to respond to something that isn't you. Friction wakes the brain up. When you move your body, your nervous system shifts. When you talk to someone, even briefly, your attention moves outward. When something unexpected happens, a conversation, some type of noise, a change of scenery, your brain stops looping and starts positioning things in place. That's exactly why people feel better after doing something small outside. Even if they didn't enjoy it that much, the benefit isn't the activity itself, it's the redirection of attention. Isolation, especially in this context, doesn't mean being alone forever. It means being alone too long without interpreting the situation. There's a big difference between choosing solitude and drifting into it. One is restorative, the other is draining. The problem is that from the inside, they feel very similar at first, but they're both very quiet. Both reduce pressure. Both remove social demand, but only one of them feeds the brain. When solitude has boundaries, your mind knows it'll re-engage. When isolation stretches on without contrast, your brain starts conserving energy. It reduces motivation, not because you're weak, but because it's adapting to a low stimulation environment. This is where people get confused. They think the dull, heavy feeling means they're lazy. There's something wrong with the discipline, that they lost their drive. But that dullness isn't a moral failure. It's understimulation. Your brain is bored in the same way a muscle is really tense when you work it out. Scrolling doesn't fix this because it isn't really going outside. It's passive, predictable, and endless. Your brain doesn't have to respond. It doesn't have to move, decide, or engage. So it stays half awake, not resting, not working, just going through the motions. That going through the motion state is exhausting. Over time, even small tasks feel harder. Not because they're difficult, but because your mental energy isn't being replenished. You haven't been giving your brain anything to work with besides itself. That's why people can sit at home all day and feel more tired than someone who's been busy. The tiredness isn't physical, it's cognitive. Your brain needs novelty the way lungs need air. New sights, new sounds, new interactions. Not constant stimulation, just regular variation. Without it, everything starts to feel flat. Time blurs, days blend together, and motivation drops because motivation is a response to opportunity and not a command you issue to yourself. So when someone says, I don't feel like going out, even though I know it might help, that's not a contradiction. That's the brain protecting itself from the effort when it already feels depleted. Understanding this changes the whole conversation. It means the solution isn't forcing yourself to be productive or social or disciplined. It's restoring basic input. Giving your brain something new to think about besides old thoughts. A walk, a conversation, a different room, a small task done in public. These aren't lifestyle upgrades. They're just maintenance. You should live your life this way. Once you see a mental rumination for what it is, a signal, not a flaw, it becomes less scary. You stop fighting yourself and start adjusting to your environment. And that's exactly what to keep in mind when you're reading this. It's just a little bit of something to think about to improve your life. So here's the trap that lots of people fall into. There's a part no one likes to admit, because from the inside it all feels reasonable. You scroll because it feels like activity. Your thumb is moving. New things are appearing on the screen. time is passing. It looks like you're doing something, but nothing's being asked of you. You don't have to decide, respond, move, or commit. It's stimulation without participation, and that's why it's so seductive when your energy's low. Scrolling becomes the perfect placeholder for living. It fills the gaps in the days without giving anything back. And the scary part is how convincing it feels in the moment. You tell yourself you're just unwinding or taking a break, but the break never ends. It just resets your intention lower and lower until even standing up feels like effort. Then they're staying up late. Late nights feel powerful when your days feel empty. When nothing meaningful happens between waking up and sunset, nighttime becomes the only space that feels like yours. No expectations, no messages, no sense that you should be somewhere else. You get to exist without being measured. So you stay up, you scroll more, you watch one more thing. Not because you're energized, but because sleeping means tomorrow starts again. And tomorrow looks exactly like today. Staying up late isn't rebellion, it's control. It's a quiet way of saying, at least this time is mine. Even if it costs you the next day's energy. And then the cycle continues. You wake up tired, you move slower, you feel behind before the day even starts. That's when small tasks begin to feel heavy. Not because they're hard, but because your mental energy is already depleted. Sending a message, taking a shower, going outside. These things don't require much effort physically, but mentally they feel enormous. Every decision feels like it's asking too much. And when that happens, you start negotiating with yourself consistently. I'll do it later. Tomorrow will be better. I just need one more day to reset. But tomorrow doesn't reset anything because the environment stays the same. So you avoid going out. Not dramatically. You don't announce it. You just decline invites. You don't make plans. You tell yourself you're not in the mood. And at first, staying in feels like relief. No pressure, no energy drain, just quiet. And then the quiet doesn't stay quiet. The longer you avoid going out, the harder it feels to go out. The idea of interacting with people starts to feel foreign. You overthink what to wear, what to say, how long you'll have to stay. You imagine yourself being awkward or drained or wanting to leave early. So you stay in again. And then you feel worse for it. You feel guilty, restless, like you're wasting time but don't know how to stop. You scroll to distract yourself from that feeling, which makes it louder. You tell yourself you'll fix it soon, but soon never arrives because nothing changes the pattern. This is the trap. It doesn't look like a breakdown. It looks like a routine. Days blur together. The room gets quieter. Fewer notifications, fewer conversations, less friction. At the same time, your thoughts get louder. They fill the space that used to be occupied by life happening around you. You start replaying old conversations, imagining future ones that haven't happened, judging yourself for things no one else is thinking about. The silence amplifies everything. And from the inside, it feels like something's wrong with you. You think you're lost motivation, that you've become lazy, that you've broken in some subtle way that everyone else figured out how to avoid. But the truth is simpler and hard to accept. You're stuck in a low input loop. Your brain is conserving energy because it hasn't been given a reason to spend it. There's no movement, no novelty, no interaction, forcing to engage, so it turns inwards and ruminates. It magnifies problems because there's nothing else to focus on. And the worst part is how self-reinforcing it is. The less you do, the less capable you feel. The less capable you feel, the more you avoid. The more you avoid, the smaller your world gets. The smaller your world gets, the louder your thoughts become. None of this means you're weak. It means you're human in an environment that quietly drains you while pretending to be comfortable. Recognizing the trap isn't about blaming yourself. It's about seeing the pattern clearly enough to stop taking it personally. Because once you see it, you realize the problem isn't your character. It's the loop you've been living in, and loops can be broken. You just have to figure out how to do it. Let me flip this perspective for you. Let's slow this down for a second, because the first thing most people assume in this state is that something is wrong with them, that they're broken, unmotivated, lazy, behind, that everyone else figured something out they didn't, and that assumption alone adds weight to an already heavy situation. So let's reframe it. You're not broken, you're unstimulated. That sounds almost too simple, but that's the point. When your brain doesn't get enough things that you should be getting throughout the day, it doesn't thrive, and it doesn't shut down either. It goes quiet in some areas and louder in others. You lose energy not because you lack discipline, but because there's nothing pulling your attention outward. This isn't a personality flaw, it's a nervous system doing exactly what's designed to do when the environment is flat. Once you see it in that way, a lot of the self-blame falls apart. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what has my brain been missing? And that's a much better question to ask yourself. Another shift that helps, motivation doesn't come first. Movement does. People wait for motivation like it's permission, like you need it or nothing will work out. Like one day they'll wake up and suddenly feel ready to go outside, talk to people, or change their routine. But motivation is usually a reaction, not a starting signal. Your body moves, your brain follows. Even small movements change your chemistry. Blood flow increases. Sensory input returns. Your attention widens. You don't need to feel inspired. You need to interrupt stillness. A walk around the block does more for motivation than an hour of convincing yourself you should do something. This is why forcing yourself to think differently rarely works. Thoughts follow action, not the other way around. The same thing applies socially. You don't need a big social life. You don't need constant plans or a packed calendar. You just need regular human interaction, contact. A short conversation, eye contact, a voice that isn't coming from your phone. We've turned socializing into a performance metric. Like it only counts if it's exciting or meaningful or lasts all night. But your brain doesn't need depth all the time. It needs signals that you're not alone in this world. Regular low pressure interaction does more than intense social bursts followed by long isolation. It keeps the nervous system calibrated. It reminds your brain that other people exist and that interacting with them doesn't require huge energy cost. Another important reframe, going outside isn't productivity. It's maintenance. You don't go outside to achieve something. You go outside to keep the system running. Just like you don't brush your teeth to win anything, you do it to prevent decay. When everything in life gets measured by output, basic maintenance start to feel pointless. If you didn't accomplish anything, you assume the day was wasted. But that mindset slowly erodes your baseline from functioning. Sunlight, fresh air, changing scenery, these aren't rewards for being productive. They're just something your brain needs and expects by default. Skipping them doesn't save energy, it drains it. And finally, remember this. Your brain wakes up when your body does. You can think your way into clarity while staying physically still. The brain is part of the body, not a separate command center floating above it. When your body stays stagnant, your mind follows. Movement doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be structured. It just has to be real. Walking, stretching, standing outside, doing something that creates sensation instead of stimulation. When the body engages with the world, the brain stops spiraling inwards. Thoughts loosen, perspective widens, problem shrinks to their actual sides. None of this means everything suddenly feels easy. This isn't a promise of instant happiness. It's a reminder that you're not starting from zero. You've lived life so far, right? You know some stuff. Even if you feel like you're stupid as hell, you still have something there. If you skip all these things, it drains your energy. And also remember this. Your brain wakes up when your body does. You can't think your way into clarity while staying physically still. The brain is part of the body, not a separate command center floating above it. When your body stays stagnant, your mind follows. So instead of asking yourself to be better, more motivated, more disciplined, ask for a little more input, a little bit more movement, a little bit more contact with the world as it is. Relief doesn't come from fixing yourself. It comes from re-engaging with life gently, consistently, and without pressure. And that's a much more achievable place to start. Remember, to start. So you'll eventually get more, better, and a lot more intense with this, and it'll be much easier. Alright, let me give you something to do without feeling pressure. Most advice fails because it assumes you have excess energy just lying around. It talks to you like you're fully charged and just refusing to act. But when you're mentally drained, the problem isn't knowing what to do. It's that everything sounds like too much. Maybe you have a hard day. It just happens to anyone in any situation. So this isn't about fixing your life. It's about lowering the bar so far that action becomes possible again. The first shift is simple. Leave the house without a goal. No errands, no self-improvement mission, no, while I'm out there, I should also. That mindset turns leaving into a task, and tasks trigger resistance. The point isn't efficiency, it's interruption. You're not going out to accomplish anything. You're going out to break the loop of being in the same place with the same thoughts. Even 5 minutes outside changes the scenery your brain is receiving. Different light, different sounds, different temperature. That alone is enough to shift your internal state slightly, and slightly is all you need. Which leads to the next idea. Walk somewhere boring on purpose. Nothing that's something that looks like it's on Instagram or something. Or you can take a picture of. Just boring. A quiet street, a parking lot, a familiar route you already know. When a place is boring, it removes performance pressure. You don't have to feel inspired or appreciative of the situation. You're just there, breathing in all the air, having a good time, smiling. Boring environments are grounding. They let your mind settle without demanding anything from you. There's nothing to optimize. No expectations to meet. You walk, you breathe, you return. That's it. Then there's human contact. And this is where people overcomplicate things. Talk to one human, even briefly. Not a deep conversation, not emotional vulnerability, just a few words exchanged with someone who exists outside your head. A cashier, a neighbor, a barista, just a nod, a thank you, one sentence. These micro interactions matter more than people think. They remind your nervous system that social contact doesn't always require energy intensive engagement. You don't need to be on. You just need acknowledgement. One interaction is enough to recalibrate your sense of isolation. Not forever, just for that moment. Another low resistant move, change environments before changing habits. People try to fix themselves while staying in the exact place that reinforces the problem. Same room, same chair, same lighting, same time of day. Then they wonder why nothing shifts. Nothing changes. Environment does have to work for you. A different room, a library, a cafe, a park bench, even sitting in your car somewhere else. You don't need a new routine yet. You need a new backdrop. Just change the fucking scenery, man. That's all you really have to do for right now. Habits are easy to change once the environment stops pulling you back into the same mental grooves. Think of it like that. You're not going to remodel a house while standing in a locked closet. You step outside first. Finally, the most important permission. Do it badly, inconsistently, but often. This is where most people get stuck. They try something once, it doesn't work, and they are quiet. Or they miss a day and decide they're failed. Their mindset turns small actions into tests, and nobody wants to keep failing tests. And also remember, bad actions count. A short walk counts. An awkward conversation counts. Leaving the house for 2 minutes counts. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means repetition without self-judgment. In fact, inconsistency is part of the process. You're rebuilding capacity, not enforcing discipline. Some days will feel easier. Some days will feel pointless. That's just normal. The only thing that matters is returning. Not tomorrow, not after you feel ready, just returning when you can. These steps aren't meant to inspire you. They're meant to make movement unavoidable. Low stakes, low pressure, almost boring. And that's exactly why they work. You're just another person who's living life. Big changes come later. Direction comes later. Motivation shows up later. Right now, the win is proving to your brain that action doesn't require drama. You don't need a breakthrough. You need a pattern that's gentle enough to repeat. Start small, start sloppy, start without meaning. That's how momentum actually begins. So now, what do you think? Should you trash it or should you bookmark it, keep it in the safe? I recommend you keep it in the safe. This gets a pass from me because this tweet acknowledges humans shouldn't always stay at home even if you have nothing to do. Staying at home for too long makes the brain become dull and leads to overthinking. You'll have more negative emotions. Psychology calls this state mental rumination. Most of the time, people who stay at home long term are not physically lazy, but mentally exhausted. You increasingly do not want to go out or see people, and much more. So the tweet, very valid, very useful. What do you think? Leave it down below. This is exactly why I like to talk about this stuff and let you guys know all this information, just in case you guys are really feeling down. And if you're feeling down, you need a lot of help, fill out the form up above and we'll talk soon. I have something planned. Alright guys, peace.